don't want to hear an opinion. I just want to ask a process question. I think it's been answered very clearly.
No, it hasn't. I can't see how the process works.
Yeah,
If you asked for suggestions, which you did, which was great, that was very democratic. Some people took advantage of it, some people didn't. Those of us who did, although irrespective of who, what is the process, Gary, for getting something on the list?
Gary, if you don't.
So that's the process. I'll even use the word process. What is the process for getting something on the list?
If you don't understand the process, your question has been answered. But so don't say any more. Okay?
That's an absurdity.
Well, no, Gary.
What is the process for getting something on the list? That's Gary. A process question. So it's even got the verb in it.
Okay, look, if it helps the debate, I will move an amendment that we go back to the original process should the motion fail. So I'm putting up.
That's automatic. That's automatic. That's by default. And can you do that in the more Gary's?
You told me to put an amendment up.
We have a 5-minute break.
Yeah. No, stop. I'm putting up an amendment to go back to my own recommendation should the motion fail. So the amendment obviously comes ahead of the motion.
Point of order. Can I suggest we take...
That's not a point of order. What is your point of order?
Well, you made an amendment in the middle of Gary's speech. So can I suggest that we take this offline for a couple of minutes and cool off and...
Okay, Gary, continue with your debate, please.
Okay, well, mine is simply a process, literally a process question. I don't understand how... look,
Gary, you've finished your process question. Okay. It's debate. Have you got anything more to say in debate? You've got 5 seconds left.
There seems... I don't understand the process for us giving you suggestions and then for those suggestions to be voted in or out. Now, if it is that Andrew has the complete and utter control, I'm disappointed, but that's the rule, that's the process. I want someone to say, yep, Andrew's got the complete and utter ability to do that because he's the mayor and that's what the law says or something, or the process is that it has to be a majority vote around here, or Gary, we're going to do all of them.
That is the process. It's my...
So what is the... So which of those... I put 3 things then. Which one is the process?
We've had an email already from Sean on this when the...
Okay, I can't remember what was in the email. What is the process?
Sean, could you explain the process, please?
So we had asked for members to provide suggestions to
we know that.
Andrew, and we were going to vote on these today. If the motion that's on the board goes through, then I would take my direction through Richard from the Mayor for what goes into the February report.
Okay. So Sean said it was going to get voted on. I think you meant, did you mean the suggestions? Which is what I took it to mean.
Motions up on the wall for each individual one, Gary, before. That's what I was raising in my query about the process.
So can I answer that?
Yes.
So if, for example, one of the motions for the 2 hours free parking had failed today, then we would have taken that. We wouldn't have prepared information for that in February.
What has happened to it now? Because I don't know what's happened to it.
So the motion that is now on the table is to simply receive the report.
Yeah, what does that mean?
So that means that Andrew, the Mayor, will lead the draft annual report production for February. So I and Richard will take our direction from the Mayor. And so the report that comes back in February will reflect that.
Point of order.
Yes.
Because 6 of these 9 issues already have work decisions in place, decisions by council, the chief executive and the general management will have to take their instructions from council in respect of them, which may or may not dovetail with what the mayor's doing.
Sorry, that's correct. Yes.
Okay, Gary, have you finished your debate? No more questions. We're in debate.
Well, I haven't debated at all. Okay. Okay, I can't. Okay, so what are we doing now? We're debating that this report be received. Okay. Well, I can't support that because it simply knocks everything off. As far as from the explanation I've had here, and an appalling explanation, to be honest, from everyone. It does not seem that any of these things have been considered, will be considered. So that's how I understand what the discussion is. And Leanne's shaking her head, but that's what she said. So I think the whole process has become a farce. I don't know what's going on.
Leanne, would you like a
I'd just
reply
like to
on that?
say I wasn't shaking my head at your debate, and I resent the characterisation actually in
that's
the
enough. Thank you,
association.
Leanne.
Thank you.
Councillor Paula.
Thank you, Mayor Andrew. Just a couple of quick points. Just one correction. Thank you for what I understood happened was that we were asked for areas of focus. That's how when your email came out, and I thank you for it, even though we didn't have very much time. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to think that. And I took it as we were being asked for areas of focus for discussion in the lead up to the annual plan, not necessarily specifics. So the way the one that's attributed to me is wording probably goes a little too far. I would prefer to have in that third column outcomes and potential actions identified in the Western Town Belt, giving us some flexibility for the work that's already underway in that Western Town Belt work. It might throw something up that may be of consideration for an annual plan. We don't know that, but this, I think the timing fits quite well. So that's what, so if we can change that, because at no way in my email to mention the word funding for Pacific projects. Anyway, so if that correction could be noted, that would be ideal. In terms of this, I'm with Councillor McPherson because I'm not sure how we can debate these ideas today without any corresponding information that's set behind them. And that's something that staff should lead. This is like a bag of ideas that councillors are really interested and passionate about, and we need some background to that. It's become very black and white today, and that's unfortunate. But I think, great, you've got a heads up of how some people are thinking about some things. If I'd had more time, I might have popped another couple in, but I'm expecting the process to be iterative next year. Workshops, discussions, debates like we've always had, and things might move around a weeny bit. I take a little bit of a different point of view in terms of the Mayor's role in annual plans or long-term plans. The legislation gives him the authority and role to lead council through the LTP. And all credit to you, Andrew, for at least trying to get some steer from councillors early. I think that's the right thing to have done. A little bit blunt way of doing it here today, but the right thing to have tried to do. Because I do think it's your role to work with us to lead a good result through the LTP, through the annual plan policies. I don't think it is your annual plan. It is council's annual plan, and you're the leader. Thank you.
So just a point of clarification, it is the Mayor's annual plan, and once I table it, then it becomes council, then bring in their thoughts and their ideas, and it becomes council's annual plan from that point on. Just to be clear. Councillor Mark.
Thank you, Mayor Andrew. I appreciate what you're doing here, and I thank you for the opportunity to put ideas forward. My very brief debate will be concerning on the next page about your proposed changes. I'll just wait for. Okay, thank you. And I just urge that you bring your proposed. I can wait. It's like Christmas pixies at meeting Santa. Sorry, thank you. Just the reason I'm waiting, I'm not trying to be smart. I'll just my point is directed at you, and I'd encourage you to bring your proposed changes to the group as soon as you possibly can, so we don't have a repeat of last year, which where you got accused of ambushing us and all that kind of stuff. So I would urge you. Thank you for doing this so early, and I would be really excited to get your points or what you want in the annual plan as early as possible next year. Thank you.
I appreciate what you've tried to do here, Mr. Mayor, and I think it's been good. And I think Councillor Dave's point does wrap up also what you're trying to achieve in a more expedient way. And I think the staff will be able to quite ably work through some of those issues that obviously are already in works in progress, or unpick some of them that contradict resolutions, etc. So well done, everyone. Chair.
For right of reply.
Clarify a couple of things here. The process, including the listing here, has been a good process because people have all had a chance to have their issue put in front of the Mayor, who leads the next stage. But equally, count of the 9 items down there, 2/3 of them already have council decisions driving what's the discussion and when the information is coming back, and the other third have some work already done, and Rob described how in one case that was happening. So let it keep happening. Is there nothing? Receiving the report doesn't stop any of that happening, won't stop any of these discussions, and even when the Mayor comes back on the 21st of February with some things, there are still 6 of them being driven by independent council decisions already made, such as the parking one, which will still come back, the major report in March. We've known that for a long time, and the purpose actually for it coming back in March was to feed into the annual plan discussions, just using that by way of an example. So this is not an anti-mayor thing, it's actually supporting the process that's happened today. It's just saying going through each individual item, debating it now is not the right way to handle it. That's all.
Okay, we'll go to the board to vote. Okay, that's carried 10 for, 2 against. Okay, so we now move through to the second.
Chance to ask questions in that last debate, but could I get some clarification?
Councillor Rob, you have to ask them offline. Once the vote's been taken, there is clear and standing orders. There is no room for questioning after the item, but it's certainly offline. Second item, the Hamilton City Council core. Thank you. So is there any questions on that? Is there any debate on that? Councillor Gary?
No idea what this is about, so I need someone to tell me.
So, sorry, I should have had support here for this, but Tame's gone. But a co is something that NZTO, AO1, the Māori representatives who sit around a table are suggesting that this is something that should have been here a long, long time ago. It's something that's used for sod turning and for blessings, and it belongs to the mayor and the kamatua between them, and it builds up history and mana with time, or history with time, and it's something that's it's like a, sorry, I'm way out of my depth here, and I've got little support, but it's basically equivalent to a spade, where you would do those special events, used for those special events. So, and I apologise if I haven't been sensitive enough culturally because I'm way out of my depth, but so it's, yeah, it's like a special spade that's been carved and that's been blessed, that's used for, that's repeatedly used over generations for important groundbreaking ceremonies. And I apologise if I've culturally haven't been accurate in what I've said, but that's the general gist. Yeah.
Thank you, Dave. I was trying to Google that.
So, Councillor Rob.
So it is a physical tool,
Yep.
but there's a process around it. Is there
Yep.
a set process around how it's used and
Yep.
and who's involved in using it and so
Yep.
forth?
Yeah.
Yep. So do we need to bring in, not only acquire I call it a spade, but
Yeah.
I don't want to offend anyone calling it, but whatever the tool is, there's a whole process around it in terms of how it gets used and in what circumstances it gets used and who uses it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Angela.
So I dare to assume then that the creation of this object that will be used in ceremonial sod turnings has a cost that comes with it and a process that comes with it.
Yes, it will.
So what's the cost of something like this?
Sorry, I don't know. I imagine it's something that we will ask Tainui to take care of, and that they'll send us an account depending on the amount of time and energy, and it wouldn't be something that I'd be comfortable asking for a quote for in this case, with what's considered a sacred type of tool that they will decide how much time and energy to put into the carving. It's not something that you buy off the shelf.
Well, no, I understand that.
It's something that we direct them that we would like them to know.
Question to the CE, you'd have budget for something like this? And have, I mean, is it a $10,000 item? Is it?
I haven't been involved in the discussion. This came directly from the Māngai Māori, directly to the Mayor. So we need to do some due diligence behind it, but we would, if Council made the decision, would have to look at finding a budget for it.
Would have been helpful, Mayor, if you'd included a bit more information in an image, because I have no idea what it is.
Just Google it. They're right there. They come straight
But it's
up.
your report, so the information would have been provided.
So like I say, it's not something that we're going to say we want it carved a certain way in a certain style. That will be left to Tainui, or whoever Tainui chooses to come up with that. It's like I say, you don't go to the warehouse and buy these. Councillor Dave.
Oh, sorry, I had a question about something else, not the call.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Martin.
No, I'll save it for debate, if there's debate.
Councillor Jeff.
Sorry, Mayor Andrew. Look, I didn't quite get the gist of the cost thing. Is it going to cost us money or is it not?
Yes, it is going to
me.
cost the council money.
And we don't know how much.
But I don't want to make this a discussion about money when it's something that's done like a charge up, depending on how much effort probably the King's Office decides to put into this, taking into account who the end user is and who's going to be using this.
I don't want to be awkward, but I'm not comfortable approving something which is going to cost us money and we don't know how much money it's going to cost.
I totally understand that. In this case, with the spiritual significance attached to this, if you're uncomfortable, vote it down by all means. And I understand that, but in this case, this isn't a matter of money. This is a matter of having something of spiritual significance for special use to last generation in and out for specific purpose. So I'm not prepared to ask for a quote on something like this, and I don't believe that Tainui would be irresponsible in the way that they charge for it. And sometimes when you get a plumber in or an electrician in to do a job, sometimes they're done on charge up because you just don't know what's involved until you get into it.
Will it cost more than balustrade?
That's not the case here. You can ask for a cost.
You don't want it to cost more than a balustrade.
Or an eyesight.
No.
Well, yeah, but the cost of that presumably is absorbed into, comes out of some budget. It's not clear if that's the case here or...
I'll just maybe to Councillor Jeff's point and Councillor Angela's question is if someone wants to put an amendment that the Chief Executive undertakes the scoping of the creation of a city call, I can then go off and do some more work and bring that back to Council with the information that's needed.
I'd like to put that amendment. That'd be great. If the Mayor accepts it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll second it.
I will remove my motion so that can be your motion.
Thank you.
It's not quite right, Jeff, really, that you would put that motion. It should really be my motion in this case because it is the Mayor's, part of the Mayor's office. But
okay.
So I really think that I should be moving it, Jeff.
Okay.
Move that.
Yeah, I'm happy to take you as a seconder.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I'll remove my motion, my original motion. Gary, councillor Gary, sorry. Okay, all those for? Any, oh, do you want to debate? Sorry, we moved to debate.
I don't know which motion they've got now, because there's one motion with 3 parts on the back, Andrew, and you've changed part C, which is fine. But what about the other 2 parts? Or the, part A, which is what I want to ask a question about and discuss, which I was on the list.
So just that one about the call for the time being? Do you want to do one
Yeah,
by
we're
one?
just doing that one item, yeah.
Okay. So part B, the second B.
And that's what you're moving now?
C.
You're moving C. Did I want to talk to B? No, I want to.
No, it's not A. We're not doing.
Okay, so
No,
that's
so
seconded
just
by
one
councillor
part.
Jeff.
That was one.
So we'll go to the board to vote on that?
Just that one?
Yes.
Yep, just that one item, councillor Southgate.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, all those for? Any
Aye.
against? Carried unanimously.
No.
One against, sorry. So, councillor Gary dissenting.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Pretty good.
Councillors and the Mayor, the item B as a recommendation is no longer needed, which is the, we're done B in terms of the recommendation on page 44. That was in relation to the annual plan. So by receiving that report, B doesn't need to be moved now. I'm just talking about, yes, so B doesn't. A is still up to discussion. I think some of the councillors have questions.
So, I'll move A with,
I've had the question on that before
Yep.
you go to the vote
sure.
about that issue. I'm perturbed that we haven't officially communicated yet with Waikato District about what our concerns are, which we talked about in the letter, the meeting on the 11th of October. I've been approached by Waikato.
So hang on, just to be clear, we're in debate and we're debating A.
Yeah.
I think, well, that's not a question, it's debate.
Yeah, I'm just about to ask the question. Okay, I won't say. In relation to the letter that was going to be written to Waikato District sometime, hopefully shortly after 11th of October, can I ask why it hasn't yet gone?
There is communication received by me from,
No, we were going to write a letter. That was the discussion at the meeting. We passed a motion and we were going to outline that and with an explanation in the letter requesting a meeting.
so I received a letter from Mayor Allen.
But that's not what I'm asking about.
If I can respond to councillor McPherson's
We
question.
initiated it. We were going to ask them.
Yeah, well, can I just finish?
Yeah.
So we had a letter drafted to go to Mayor Allen when we received a letter from Mayor Allen inviting us to talk in February. So that has just happened in this week. So we're in the middle of drafting a letter back.
So, thank you. That's just happened this week. So between the 11th of October and this week, why did we not do what we said we were going to do at the meeting there? Because if you recall, we had a whole list of little issues and some bigger issues about that we were getting aggrieved with Waikato District. So we said, let's roll them all into one discussion. Let's communicate with them and set up a meeting to discuss them. So we had 6 or 8 weeks to do that. 8 weeks to do that in before Mayor Allen wrote this letter, which I have seen.
Yep. So
And it just seems to me like now the Waikato District is dropping we've dropped the ball because they're now setting the agenda, not us.
So firstly, we are going to respond to the letter and re-establish our points. And I agree with you that 6 to 8 weeks is a long time to wait. We had hoped to have a preliminary meeting with yourself and the Mayor, and however we took too long to arrange that meeting. Councillor McPherson, I apologise for that. So we're now doing our best to respond and make sure we still have the upper hand with our points that were raised at that October meeting. It's not an adequate explanation, Councillor McPherson, but that's the explanation I've got.
Yeah. Okay.
Councillor, are we in questions here, or do you want? Okay.
Is, you know, I sense that maybe things have been quite slow, but have we suggested a meeting date for February? Because I sense, given what we've had since October, we might well return in February and find that you're still trying to put together a meeting date to continue this dialogue with Waikato District Council. So have we got a date set or a date agreed?
I'm just going to ask, sorry, Councillor Pascoe, I'm just going to ask Blair whether or not the date's been set yet.
We have dates that work at our end. We're just working with Waikato to agree the dates at their end. But we're targeting early February.
So we've suggested some dates to Waikato District Council now in terms of when we're available to meet with them.
That's correct.
Okay.
And we have a letter that we will be sending to them. We'll just have to change the pitch now in terms of acknowledging the receipt of their email and then highlighting back to them the areas we wish to cover in that meeting.
Okay. Can I suggest just offline that as soon as that meeting date is agreed, that perhaps you circularise councillors just to say that it's now underway, because I really feel that there are some issues here. Just over the last week, I read in the paper, you know, a spat between our mayor and their mayor, which, you know, to me is not a satisfactory way of debating or discussing issues that might arise between the two councils.
It's getting off and on. Absolutely, Councillor.
Thank you.
Councillor Ryan, is a question or debate?
It's a question, and it actually refers to B, and I know this isn't about B, but I'm concerned that the CEO just suggested we remove B, and that we'd already made it potentially redundant, but I read that as being quite different in that it says staff will report back on the financial implications of the proposed changes suggested by elected members, whereas as a governance manager said earlier, it's just receiving the report, which doesn't mean there's an explicit requirement for council staff to report back on those financial implications, and we need visibility on those financial implications of all the recommendations of the elected members. Therefore, I would like to see B stay in.
Okay, sorry, I should have been a little bit more clear on it. There's a legislative obligation for us to bring back the financial impacts of the mayor's budget. So whatever the mayor puts forward, we have to do the financial implications for it. So.
Yeah, but that's the mayor's budget. This is our elected member request, which is quite separate, because otherwise they may not make the mayor's annual plan.
Well, you can't re-debate what we voted on.
We haven't debated on this. This is a separate item.
I think there's still misunderstanding of the process. So this is very clear. The mayor will put forward the budget the mayor chooses to bring forward. We will do all the financial analysis of that. If in the February meeting councillors make a decision that they want to make changes or want to go to the community, we have to then model those changes and what the impact is on the community at that point. So the list of changes here, if the mayor decides that he doesn't want to acknowledge any of them, and to Councillor McPherson's point earlier, a lot of them are already underway from previous resolutions, they're lost in terms of up until the mayor puts his budget on the table, and then at that point the conversation needs to continue. But I was suggesting that we will be preparing this information as part of the mayor's budget.
I accept that, but I'd still like to see it in. That's my opinion.
It's a whole lot of extra work and modelling and creating a second budget, which is not in line with what the legislation requires us to do.
I disagree.
That's the legislation that you've got to do.
Okay, so we're now voting on. Okay, sorry. All right, Councillor. So do we have a seconder for this? Deputy Mayor. Thank you. And Martin has. Okay, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Obviously, I'm looking forward to that meeting, and I do take Councillor Pascoe's point around, and I will also be very disciplined in January so that we don't get to talk to each other, you know, through in the paper. I, as an individual elected member, do have some strong views around the problems our city now has around Hamiltonians, all but name, living on our fringes, who use all of our services and should be making a contribution either by a targeted rate or being part of a greater city of Hamilton. Having said that, I deeply, deeply respect the Waikato ward members who are on our fringes, who I think playing a very positive role, and I think we do need to work with those. We don't just need to work with Mayor Sanson, who I respect, obviously, but we do need to show respect and be in touch with some very good members who are on our, you know, about 3 or 4 who are on our fringes, and I think we need to dialogue with them. And I think I'm really looking forward to this meeting, which will be, you know, and in the end there'll be some issues which Waikato and Hamilton may at the end of the day agree to differ on, and if there's an ultimate major difference, in the local government commission ultimately would you know, resolve that. I think we also need, without being disrespectful to Waikato District Council, we need to have a really good communication strategy with those communities of Hamiltonians, in my view, that live on our fringes, so that they know what our concerns are, etc., etc. But ideally, we'll have this meeting and we'll hopefully we'll agree on more than we differ on, and move forward from there. So we do good luck to the Mayor and Councillor McPherson and key staff and others who are on that in that meeting. Wish you well.
Councillor Paula.
Thank you, Mayor Andrew. Actually, Councillor Pascoe in his debate-like question and Martin have stolen a little bit of my commentary. I was really disappointed to get to a cafe for coffee, open up the page and find arguments between the 3 leaders who need to get together on this displayed for all to see in the paper. It wasn't nice. There were not nice things said by any of the parties in that debate, which made me lose some confidence that we'll be able to work collegially and cooperatively as we should, because everything like this is built on relationships. Having said that, that's done now. I just want to make the point that I support this taking its time and building that relationship up again. I don't support letters that stay between a few, but the rest of council sort of catches up later through some kind of media outlet. We all need to understand how this progresses at every step. It is a really big decision for this community of Hamilton City. Likewise, it's a very big decision for the communities of Waipa and Waikato, and has an implication on the way that they sustain their business and their community. So we do need to play fair and play just, and yes, consider what is right for Hamiltonians first and foremost, but also put our feet in someone else's shoes in the way that we have that debate. And so I would be very disappointed if I see another story about this where we drop into that personal argument between leadership. I think that's unfortunate. Thank you.
Just a point of correction, members. What was put in the paper was what has been said around this table, and that's the media has picked it up from around this table. So this wasn't some kind of an underhanded, underbellied sort of way of coming in and attacking. So I want to make that very clear. I'll just be respectful and not cutting the member off and let them finish first. But I just want to make that clear, that this, we speak fully and frankly around this table. We all do. And if the media picks up on those comments and writes them into a story, that is part of democracy. Councillor Dave.
Yeah, I was actually going to make a somewhat similar point. I do agree with the points that are made by Councillors Pascoe and Gallagher and Southgate as well. If you read the article was actually a really good article, especially the first bit. I mean, it was well written all the way through, but the really good thing was showing the density of population in Hamilton compared with the other major areas of the country. And it's a fact, it's a scientific fact that you can't avoid, and I'm good on the media for picking up that issue. We didn't put out a press release to that effect. The Mayor didn't put out a press release to that effect. He didn't slag off other councils. He simply was reported in council meetings, and I certainly agree with him, as saying we can't keep going like this. Look at our population density. We're more than twice any other city in the country. We're literally have our boundaries on the board, on people's back fences at the moment in many parts around the city, and we have to do something about that. And the people we have to be doing it with are our neighbours, clearly. That was the point that was made. Perhaps the headline didn't help, and certainly some of the other councils, especially the Mayor of Waikato District, took it as a land grab and a complaint about them, which has not been raised. It's a simple fact. Look at our population density, look at the small amount of land we've got left available to develop in. What's your conclusion? We have to do something about it, and I think the Mayor has been incredibly responsible about raising it now and pushing the issue. And I think this council's been responsible by rolling the bigger issue, or rolling all the smaller issues we're having, which are arising out of that bigger issue, into one package for discussion. The comments that were made back were made in response to, I'm not sure what, by the Mayor of Waikato District, and I think if there was any problems, it was with those comments, not with our comments. The Mayor of Waipa was actually conciliatory. If you looked at what he said basically, when the council puts a good case to us, we of course will listen to it like we have in the past, and there will be need for land to go into the city. He made that point pretty much. So I think that we're on the right track. I'm just disappointed that it's taken too long to get that meeting set up and going, because I think in the meantime we've had things like the future-proof meeting the other night, which was many of those problems surfaced there, and that's what the briefing later today is going to relate to, actually, because the Mayor and myself did not want to make decisions on behalf of this council that had never been discussed around this council to do with future spatial planning and land use in the central Waikato. So there's it's really urgent now.
Councillor Robb.
Look, I just want to clarify that my question was not intended to be critical of this council or the Mayor. It was just simply perhaps the fact that it's taken this long to get a meeting organised perhaps has resulted in maybe some frayed comments that have been made through the media. And, you know, for one, I believe that we can achieve a lot more, and that was certainly the intent back in October, that we could achieve a lot more by getting around the table and talking through the particular issues that concern Hamilton and the ones that concern Waipa and Waikato. So my intention was not was really around why are we taking so long to get around the table and talk, rather than using, and the fact that we are taking this long to do that, perhaps it's resulted in what I would term some sort of spat that's been done through the media. So look, I'm real keen that we get a date, hopefully before Christmas, a date that we will have an opportunity, or this council representatives will have an opportunity to meet with our neighbouring councils and put our concerns on the table, as indeed they would put theirs on, and we can perhaps try and work through sensible solutions to those concerns, and perhaps come back with some positive outcomes. Thank you.
And just to add to that, I have got a third large employer now who's talking about leaving town because they want to expand and there isn't a room for them. They are right on our boundary, and it's just frustrating, very frustrating to be involved in these situations. This employer has 150 employees and wants to increase that to probably double that. And yeah, it's just hugely frustrating that we are so constrained. And the land they're looking at is in one of our neighbours' areas, again for the third time. Also, I get a lot of feedback from residents and our neighbours. Well, just a diversion here. I'm impressed that the Deputy Mayor didn't talk about Tamaheri in his speech, but we'll leave that aside. We'll leave that there. I was waiting for it. I was going to give you an extension, but you didn't go there. I just want to say that when you look at our neighbours and you look at the rates they're paying and look at the fact that on top of that they've got to pay for their libraries, on top of that they've got to pay for their rubbish to be picked up, on top of that they've got to pay for their water. In Hamilton City, all those are services that go with your rates. There's some pretty unsettled neighbours who live around our borders who would like to be part of our city to get their services as Hamilton residents do. And the momentum and the feeling with those residents around our borders, I believe, is building as well. So we'll go to the vote on this. All those for? Any against? Carried unanimously. So just before we break, so just once again, I just want to wish everyone a happy Christmas and a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and particularly our staff. I really do believe we've got fantastic staff who really are motivated. Sometimes we misunderstand them, and sometimes they might niggle at us and we might niggle at them, but they really have got big departments. We are a big city, and that we are a team and we all need to be working together. That doesn't mean we can't challenge each other, but it also, I want to commend members here around this table that there is no direct attacks at staff, and I don't see that coming through, and I'm really pleased that we understand that we can challenge without stepping over that line where it becomes personal. So so again, to the senior leadership team and all those who work with us and everyone in the building, I just really do wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and it'd be lovely to come back in February refreshed and rested. So thank you all. We'll stop till 11:15. Councillor Mark.
For a break, but I'd just like to echo your comments, in particular from my point of view as head of a couple of task forces this year. It's been particularly rewarding working with great staff, and I'd just like to single out the waste and recycling staff that are now in Councillor Siggy's purvey, and the transport staff. They've been fantastic to me as an elected member, and thoroughly enjoying working with them well, and I want to wish them a Merry Christmas and lots of peace over the summer period. Thank you.
Support your points, and obviously want to particularly pay tribute to the Floor 9 team, the governance team, the democracy team that we work with day to day. I think, and thank them for their tolerance and good humour in many cases, particularly with myself. But the other thing is, I just want to acknowledge that we should never forget that throughout this building and at Duke Street and the other around the place, is we have got an incredible range of CVs. A number of those CVs have Australasian international reputations, New Zealand reputations, and we should never forget that when someone's advising us, they're doing it from a professional perspective. We don't have to agree with that advice, that's our right. But I just want to Richard, say that I think we're all very grateful for the incredible level of expertise and professionalism and public service that we get, and I just want to support your words, Your Worship.
Okay, we'll stop till 11:45. Thank you.